Come on, man.
It's... It's...
Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday!
Why, yes, it is. And so that means one thing. We got to get you ready for the weekend. But today it means a whole bunch of different things. We are going to be catching up with Kaylor Hodges, who actually found a place to hide. And we'll catch up with news out of Birmingham in USL Championship. We'll go over USL Championship, maybe a little USL League One, but obviously the big news, big name in USL Championship and his franchise have parted ways. We'll get into the background of it, the fallout of it, and where Birmingham goes from here. So Kaylor Hodges bats leadoff. Next up, later in hour number one, looks like Bart Keeler is going to be joining us before 10 o'clock. We'll break down everything in the Gold Cup draw and the second matchup in the friendlies with the U.S. women's national team in Brazil. Brazil ends up getting the Duke. We'll talk about the level of panic that has set in since that happened. Once again, plus the Gold Cup draw. That is late hour number one, leading into hour number two. In hour number two, we get to hang out with Brad Feldman, the play-by-play voice for the New England Revolution. He's going to come on at 10:15. We're going to borrow him for about 20 minutes, find out about the Revs and what's going on with them. And then the rest of hour number two is going to be Jason and getting ready for Atlanta United and the Revs and the rest of Major League Soccer and whatever else chaos wants to drop in. So we'll see what happens there in hour number two. So it's stacked. It's officially stacked. And so that means that to bat leadoff, we've got to go to Birmingham and catch up with our buddy Kaylor Hodges. Kaylor, what up?
Not too much. It's early in the morning, a little bit earlier than I normally see you. It's a Friday. And, I think if somebody ever sees what I look like, batting leadoff is not what you would think. But, hey, you know what? Maybe I can be a little Kyle Schwarber. First pitch, fastball, send it 250,
There you go. So we need you to just get a clean single, just get on base. And if you find the gap, that's great. And just you're okay getting in the second. That's all good. This week, the main reason that literally our spidey senses went berserk when this happened, that when Tom Sohn announced on social media that he and Birmingham Legion were no longer in a partnership and that they have separated, what was the vibe on the divorce between these two? And was it due? Was it coming? What happened here?
It's complex. I think it's going to start off with fans have wanted this for a long time. There have been a lot of fans who think this should have happened 4 years ago, not just this year. It felt like this offseason was the right time to move on when you missed the playoffs for the first time and results had been declining. But they decided to build around him and bring in some good talent for one last ride. I think a lot of fans were shocked that it happened because it felt like Tommy Sohn and Jay Heaps were tied to the hip. It's either both or no one, basically. And so that was a bit of a shock to the system. I was very surprised that it happened. Not because I don't think it was the right move. I do unfortunately believe it was the correct decision. But from some of the tea leaves that I have been kind of getting, it felt like this year might have been his last year anyway, as his final kid is graduating, right? So it felt like they were going to let him see his kids throughout high school here as the coach. And then as soon as that was over, hey, new person comes in charge. I thought they were going to give him this last year. But clearly, with the amount of money that they spent and the amount of players that they have brought in at the level of player that they've brought in, the beginning of the season just wasn't acceptable. And with Jay Heaps moving to chief soccer officer while bringing in a chief business officer, maybe it was just one of those situations of we don't need Tommy to be director of football and head coach. We have a proper director of football. Let's get in the right coach. Maybe it just felt like it was the perfect time to do it. But it doesn't mean it's not a somber occasion because the first ever coach in team history was fired.
For those not familiar, what were the changes on the field in the offseason with the roster? Who came in, who did what, and what was it looking like with this new look Legion here in 25?
If you're someone who follows the USL, you know this name, but there's a Ronaldo Damas who comes in on a loan with the option to buy. He's one of the most prolific goal scorers that the league has ever seen. Someone who's arguably more prolific that they brought in was Danny Trejo, not that one. And they bring him in on a free. And so these are two players that they brought in on frees, one with an option to buy, but the other one, you don't understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
But then they bring in a Steven Turnbull, who I always keep wanting to call him Spencer Turnbull because I'm just in love with six mans on the Phillies, apparently.
There you go.
But Steven Turnbull, and he was someone who was arguably all USL right back last year. And they bring him in, they pay a fee for him. And there were other auxiliary pieces like a Ethan Coase and bringing in a Roman Torres and other young players like Seba Tregarthen. But really, you're looking at your Turnbulls, you're looking at your Ronaldo Damas, you're looking at your Trejos, not that one. And it's one of those, like, you bring in arguably the signings of the offseason if you don't look at Lexington, who bought every player to ever exist.
They signed everybody, yeah. Oh, man. And there are other dismissals that we need to get into coming up in a bit. But the way that things came out of the blocks for Birmingham, you're below the playoff bar, 4 matches in, 2 losses, 2 draws, 2 points. I mean, you're down there with the Miami FC, Hartford Athletic, and the other storyline that we'll get into in a second, Tampa Bay. But this obviously was this done too quickly, considering that you're only 4 matches in and you're what, 15% into your schedule, or do you think that because Loudoun started out of the blocks at 4-1 and because Lou City started out of the blocks at 3-2 that you had to make a change?
Can it be both too early and too late?
Sure, absolutely.
It should have happened in the offseason. If they were this close to firing him, only a few games into the season,
Right.
they should have made the move in the offseason when they had the full pick of the bunch of anybody they wanted. Now that it's into the season, doing it 4 games in, it feels like it's too early. I will also say, though, that when you're looking at the hot coaching prospects out there of the ones that you want to sign that have USL experience, they're all still available. Every single one are still available. So maybe it was one of those situations that they said, hey, we still have an opportunity to get our guy that we wanted in the offseason, but we still gave Tommy a chance to prove his worth. It may end up being the perfect time because those big names are still out there, but it almost feels a little rude to give him 4 games, give him an entire bye week, and then 2 days before the game say, just kidding, Eric Avila is going to be the interim. It felt like if you're going to do this, you do it the Wednesday after the Pittsburgh loss, not 2 weeks after the Pittsburgh loss, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because that happened all the way back on March 29th, and here we are. You go from 3/29 to 4/11 on the calendar, and you're looking at a matchup coming up against El Paso, 5:00 in the afternoon, 2 days from now. And, it's the timing is, it's strange. To your point, unless they exercised that much thought into it and got to this point where it's like, let's see, 30 days has September, April, June, and November. So 2 plus those, so 13 days after the Pittsburgh loss, then you come up with this decision 2 days beforehand. When you look at the legacy of Tom Sohn and everything that has happened during his tenure in Birmingham, how would you characterize his time?
I think that unfortunately the end is going to be what people see. But for me, my lasting image is honestly not him as a coach. It's him as a dad. If people don't know, the Legion have a women's team, Legion WFC. And I have this lasting image of when WFC would play and they would have a doubleheader where Legion, the men's team, would play later that day. It looked like he would set an alarm on his phone. He would go to the tunnel and watch his daughter play as long as he possibly could until he had to run and do his job. And that was somebody that you knew that he loved Birmingham. He loved what was going on with the team. He was a great father. He still is a great father, but as having to balance being a coach and a dad, that's hard. You also see the lasting image that a lot of the fans have of, hey, he would bring us beers before every single game, and Coach Beers, that's what he would do. And the leading them to the Inter Miami match where they had 17,000. Those are the images that I'm left with. I think, unfortunately, other fans will see him as a missed opportunity of dropping the ball, being too conservative, parking the bus, not going after things. But I've begged people to look at what he was able to bring us, because he was the foundation. It wasn't he was a part of the foundation. He was the foundation of what the club is.
All right. That is Birmingham getting ready for El Paso this weekend. And go ahead and get And the reason I do that is because the other name that is not attached to either the Miami FC or the other team that hasn't won so far this season in USL Championship is making a coaching change themselves. 16 minutes ago, came across the table. Robbie Nielsen out in Tampa Bay, 17-17-8. Steve Coleman's going to serve as the interim head coach here. Rowdy's announcing on Friday they've relieved him of his duties. Steve Coleman serving as the club's interim, starting with the Saturday home opener against Loudoun at Al Lang. Quoting Brian Auld, Rowdy's vice chair, appointing Steve Coleman as interim head coach reflects our confidence in the group we have. In a short time at the club, Steve's already taken it upon himself to understand the Rowdy's culture and is fully committed to supporting our players on the field. We believe in this roster, its talent, resilience, and ability to compete at the highest level in the USL Championship. To our fans, your continued support means everything, and we remain focused on delivering a team that represents the pride, passion of Tampa Bay. Nielsen joined at the start of the 24 season, 17-17-8 across all comps, sixth in the East last year in the regular season, Eastern Conference semifinals last year. Coleman takes on the head coaching duties after joining the technical staff in the offseason last year, first assistant coach for Loudoun United. Irony here. Served various roles with New Zealand football for over a decade, assistant coach, analyst for New Zealand's U17 and U23s. His contributions helped New Zealand to qualify for last year's Summer Olympics in Paris. So Robbie Nielsen also out this morning in USL Championship. What say you?
Yeah. Okay. So I had kind of heard the rumblings on this one a day or two ago.
Okay.
This one seemed to have been kind of brewing for a while, but after the Tom Sohn firing, felt like it was going to happen, because I mentioned it earlier when we talked about Tom Sohn, that there are big coaching prospects. The two that I'm specifically going to highlight are Mark Briggs and Eamon Zayed.
Yeah.
Those are the two big ones. And everything that I'm kind of hearing, they are Legion were courting both of them, right? Like those are people that are having conversations. And Tampa Bay didn't want to miss out on losing not just one, but possibly both, because there's a world where one gets hired. Because from what I understand, Briggs and Eamon are kind of tight. There's a world where one gets hired as a coach and one's the assistant.
Okay.
So it's one of those situations of, if there was no other head coach job, well, being employed is better than being unemployed.
True.
So
especially with Eamon's past at Northern Colorado, allegedly.
Yes. So this feels like Tom Sohn's firing was Tampa Bay trying to get a guy that has experience. I think that if I were to be purely objective here, I think there is a right decision here for both teams.
Okay.
Birmingham gets Eamon and Tampa Bay gets Mark Briggs.
Why?
When you look at the rosters, how they're constructed, the way that Mark Briggs likes to play, Tampa Bay is just built perfectly for it. They go with the 3-5-man back line, this like 5-3-2 type thing. They have the wing backs bombing up the outside, and they really love just to cross it into the middle into a target man. that's what they've done forever. Tampa Bay has. Mark Briggs is perfect for that. If you want to see my proof of the pudding in that one, look who was Mark Briggs' replacement. Neil Collins of Tampa Bay, who built the system that they're still playing right now.
Oh man,
And
Huh.
if you look at Ayman Zayed, the way that he plays is a four-man back line. He has fullbacks. They've had good fullbacks, but he doesn't love them bombing up the wings. He would rather just have a nice little interplay between that and the wingers, which leaves you to have a ton of wingers. Get some crosses in, let the inverted wingers play, make them shoot, make them create chances, have some real destroyers in the midfield. They're both set up perfectly for both. On top of that, Eamon has ties to Birmingham. So I think when you have local ties there, I think that it makes sense on the community front. When you look at Tampa Bay, Briggs is built for this Tampa Bay team. I think he needs more investment, but still, he's built for that team. I think that's the correct way to go about it. And I think that's why that Tampa Bay made the move, because when they saw Tom Stone get fired, I think they knew that their chance of possibly getting a Briggs might be running short.
When it comes to the economy of either deal, is either club in a situation where they are financially challenged when it comes to bringing in a coaching replacement and a coaching staff, or is it just like, nope, we got the budget, everything's cool?
I think Tampa Bay, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and this has nothing to do with Tampa Bay being poor,
Yeah.
but look at how much money they had to put back in to get Outling playable. They are tied to the Tampa Bay Rays, who are trying to figure out what's going on at the Trop.
True.
Those are, when you look at natural disaster, they're a little bit more strapped for cash right now than Birmingham is. I don't think that will be the case forever, but right now, their ownership and their ties with the Rays, they're in a weird predicament. So I think that Birmingham might be able to splash the cash a little bit more, but Tampa Bay also has the history of spending and going out and getting the big guns. I don't think that either team is going to have trouble paying for new assistants, new coaches, and giving them financial backing that they need. But if I had to say one was a little bit in a worse spot, I think I would actually go Tampa Bay.
Okay. I know that you're coming back in a couple of weeks to do the monthly review of everything USL Championship, but a couple of headlines. Abdelatif Abukura from Loudon, Player of the Month. Carlos Yamosa is your coach. Right now, like we said, Loudon out of the blocks at 4-1. Lou City at 3-0-2, and then you have the gaggle of folks from 3 until the edge of the playoffs. Rhode Island FC, Tidewater Landing's got a new sponsor. It's a local bank, so they've got a building sponsor, which is always good. Western Conference, San Antonio 4-1 out of the blocks. Monterey Bay, which I think is a bit of a surprise, at 3-1-1 out of the blocks. Then you have once again the gaggle of everybody that includes, you've got 4 clubs at 5 points in their first month of the season. And then Roots out of the blocks. While it's great that they're at the Oakland Coliseum and getting record crowds right now, it hasn't translated onto the field at 0-4-1 with 1 point. Some of the thoughts that we've had since your last visit league-wide.
Abukara is stunningly good. He is a lot of what's making this Loudon team go. I said preseason, and I had conversations with some of the Loudon players who heard me say it after they beat Legion. I was like, if they go to the 4-4-2 like they were planning to do, I thought they were going to lose every game by 100. I did not see them having the attacking presence. I didn't see them having the defensive stability, because they found defensive stability in the 5-man back line. But they didn't seem like they brought enough in attacking. I thought that the defense, weakening the defense for no good reason, was a bad idea. But as it turns out, Coach Martin is a genius, and he has a coaching license and a job for a reason. And Abukara is just stunningly good. Hey, San Antonio are just so much hotter than I thought they would ever be this year. I thought they had the talent to be good, but I didn't know how the transition would go. You know, kind of being a half Marcina, half new era team. I didn't know how that was going to go. Turns out hearing a new voice is a great thing. For Monterey Bay, by the way, I still don't believe in it. I really don't. I think that they have played some of the weaker teams. They got a good result against Orange County, but you can also look at a red card and say, how much did that influence things?
Right.
I don't fully believe in what's going on there yet. Del Schaefer in the chat is clamoring for the Battery. I think what the Battery have discovered is that Chris Allen is really good at soccer. They have rediscovered that, and as long as Chris Allen's in the lineup, I think they're going to continue to win, and win. There was some other things, I guess, just on the mind. I'm trying just to go through the Rolodex right now. I think that the league has put on some really good displays. I think that Miami is significantly improved. I think that right now you have one. I think you have one team that's just horrific, and that's Hartford.
Okay. What's the difference between the Hartford that we saw that was in Open Cup last year with Romario and Anderson Asayadu, that was almost like Atlanta United North, and the team that's there now that has just completely and totally fallen down in the grass so far this year?
The goalkeeper that stood on his head and fought them and carried them just suddenly disappeared for no good reason 3 weeks before the season.
Okay.
Like,
That'll do it.
it kind of is that simple. I mean, Riviero, was just so good. He could stop anything. He was good with the ball at his feet. He willed that team into being decent last year. There were a lot of cracks. There were a lot of faults showing up, and he just covered over them, kind of like early USL Nate Steinwasser with Detroit,
There you go.
where he was getting peppered. There were goals. They should have been losing matches 5-0, but it turned into 0-0 draws, right? That's what Hartford was doing. They lose that, and they're bad. They're just really bad. And I feel bad for a guy like Brendan Burke, who's been around for a long time. He's a quality coach.
Mhm.
At this point, I feel like something happened. Maybe putting the Whalers on your crest is just not the way to go, because, I mean, cursed franchise that died. I mean, it feels like the curse of the Whaler is actively trying to pull down the Athletic. I don't know.
Wow.
Because they have talent and they have the coach. I don't know why it doesn't work.
I mean, maybe it just depends on which whale you put on the front of your jersey. Before we get out of here, League One, Naples off to a great start at 3-0-2 in their first 5. Richmond, and then once again the gaggle all the way through for this particular version of USL League One. We knew that there were going to be growing pains in Texoma. P-Hop and Red Wolves are dealing with Open Cup, and so is AV Alta. Union Omaha is dealing with Open Cup. So a lot of folks dealing with Open Cup, and FC Naples is taking advantage.
FC Naples is so good. We saw that they had the spine. I think that was the one thing we saw. They had a Heckenberg, they had a Lalo Delgado, they have a Dangler, and we said, you know what, the defensive solidity is going to be there. And that's one thing that I think is still true. They're going with these dual number 6s, and they're able to sit back, they're able to absorb a little bit of pressure, win the ball, and then just immediately start a counterattack. Enderlong may end up just being the best player in the league this year. He is just so clinical. Onan is back to being himself from 2-3 years ago. They have the players to do it. And it's something that our good friend Alex Ashton mentioned on the show on Tuesday. Lalo Delgado has 4 clean sheets to his name. He has 4 clean sheets to his name this year. He's faced 6 shots.
Oh, wow.
It's easy to be a goalkeeper when you don't have to do anything.
I was going to say, man, you got all these clean sheets. You ain't facing no shots. You just got to do your job when the ball squeaks through. That's definitely the way. All right, hit the promo. I know that you have sent us some material about Tom Sohn, and that we will roll that over to the network. But hit the promo for me. What else is going on at the USL Show?
Go over to the USL show because we put a lot of effort on a live on-site location for Chattanooga FC versus Chattanooga Red Wolves. So we were on location, we were on the field. So if you've seen the close-up videos of Logan Brown shoving people to the ground and all that stuff, that came from us. So like it was fantastic. There was a lot of work that put into it. Talked a lot about like what led to that moment or what led to the rivalry and what's going on. How do we get there? It was a lot of work. It was so much fun. And I'm telling you, people, if this happens next year in the Open Cup or whenever it happens, you have to buy a ticket because I promise you it's going to sell out. You have never seen anything like what that match was. Nothing.
Nope. 12-161 there in the house, and it was certainly scenes. I will tell you that. We were watching it, and we had it as a part of our production chat, and it was must-watch TV. As always, my friend, great to see you. Hopefully we didn't get you into any kind of trouble, so you're not in detention or anything like that. Obviously, if glass breaks and we need to break the glass and grab the fire extinguisher, we're going to give you a buzz. Thanks for coming in, especially with the news that broke during the show about Tampa Bay Rowdies and talking about Birmingham. A very, very busy week in USL Championship. Good to see you, my friend. Don't be a stranger.
Good to see you.
All right, that's Kaylor Hodges, everybody. Kaylor's actually going to go to work and actually earn a living in addition to what he does with at the USL Show. So yeah, go back and watch the Chattanooga episode in the Chattanooga programming because of what happened with FC and Red Wolves. Oh boy. Yeah, that should be fun. But yes, the video from down low was Kaylor's, where you have players mad at other players for flags and attempted flag plantings, although flag planting on turf is kind of counterintuitive. I don't think it's quite going to happen. But so that was, Chattanooga FC, Chattanooga Red Wolves. Go back and watch their show at the USL Show with their time that they spent up at Fort Finley. All right, here's your rundown. Rest of the show. We'll go through all the news and notes and promos before Bart's set to join us in a little bit. We'll talk Open Cup. He'll talk Gold Cup and anything else that comes across his brain. Match number 2 in the friendly back-to-back in front of 18,000 at PayPal Park. And we'll get into if the sky is falling and, running around in circles like Kevin from Home Alone after they lose to Brazil, meaning the U.S. women's national team 2-1 in matchup number 2 in the back-to-back friendlies at SoFi and PayPal. Once again, plus Gold Cup pairings are out. And then 10:15, Brad Feldman going to join us play-by-play for the New England Revolution. He'll join us at 10:15 as we get into the weekend whip-around, patent pending, trademark coming in the hour of chaos. And we'll talk Revs. And then we'll get into Atlanta United and the rest of Major League Soccer for the remainder of the show. Tonight, once again, remember, tonight, at South Forsyth, it is our match of the day. It is our match of the day, brought to us once again by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. The regular season is winding down. 6 and 8 are the matchups for girls and boys against Denmark. So Denmark at South Forsyth, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock tonight. And that is going to be on the network, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, or download the Mixler app and follow Soccer Down Here and SDH2, because there will be times in a perfect world where, especially in the postseason, we'll be at more than one place at a time, giving you a bunch of playoff matches and things like that. But tonight, a little before 6 o'clock, a little before 8 o'clock, Denmark at South Forsyth on the network, soccerdownhere.net. You go to the listen tab, you hit the button because the siren's going, and you can listen that way, or go to soccerdownhere.mixler.com if you believe in browsers. Download the Mixler app. Follow Soccer Down Here and SDH2. So 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock tonight, it is Denmark at South Forsyth. Next week, our schedule picks up. Last week of the regular season. Monday, we are going to be at Decatur for St. Pius and Decatur. Then it is, when is it? It is Thursday. We have a matchup that we're trying to isolate on Tuesday. Thursday, Jason will be in Dalton for Southeast Whitfield and Dalton. So 6 days from now, Jason will be at Southeast Whitfield and Dalton at Chapel Harmon. Then Maddie and I will be right now at the Moxie Midtown for our first Third Thursday event. Friday, week from today, last week of the regular season, we're going to be at McIntosh Stars Mill and McIntosh, salute to the troops. We'll be down there for that. And so Maddie and I will be down there for that because Jason is going to be in Philadelphia. And so next week, St. Pius Decatur Monday, trying to be someplace on Tuesday. Thursday, the third Thursday event at Moxie Midtown. And Jason will be at Southeast Whitfield and Dalton. Week from today, Stars Mill and McIntosh at McIntosh. So that is next week. That is the last week of the regular season. Then the playoffs kick in, and we'll be running around all over the place. So that's your programming for high school presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Once again, we couldn't do anything here at SDH without our friends at Kaiser Permanente. All right, so once again, Bart's going to join us late in hour number 1, going into hour number 2. Brad Feldman's going to join us in 10:15 to talk about the New England Revolution. Then after Brad's out the door because he's got to do other shows that he's doing up in the Northeast, the remainder of the show we'll talk about Atlanta United. We'll talk about the week that was at the Children's Health Care of Atlanta Training Ground. Keep an eye on Training Ground Dispatch. And you get the TGD once again brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Maddie and Jason are up there. They're breaking everything down and letting you know what's going on. But we'll go through everything that they've learned this week, get you ready for the Revs, and get you ready for the rest of Major League Soccer before we are out of here at 11 something. So that's the rundown for the show this morning, and we are going to be pretty much all over the place. So once again, remember, kickoff tomorrow for Atlanta United. I think it's the 250 or the 255 kick because it's going to be on Big FOX over the air. So it is not a 240 kick. It's later. So later than 240, like 250, 255. I think it's the 255. I think that's how they do it. But it's 20 or 25 minutes. Big FOX gets the super hyper mega big post-game pregame show. Then it kicks off. And then so it's not the 240 from Apple TV. It's the later because it's a Big FOX. So that's on Saturday. And then we all get ready for anything and everything else that's going on next week. And we'll let you know what is going on in our world when it comes especially to our high school programming. The Twos last night had a rough night in Chester. It was down 2-0 at the break, and then a Dominic Chongqui soft second yellow had Atlanta United going with 10 for the final 35 minutes of the match, 5-1 final for Philadelphia Union 2. You can go back and listen to the match on the network. And we also have a Twos review where we broke down all the highlights for you and laid out where the standings are in the Eastern Conference and MLS Next Pro. Atlanta United 2 now has 12 days off. So you play, you get a week off. You play 2 in 4 days. You play 2 over the span of 4 days. Then you travel to Chester for the second match in that group, and now you're off for 13 or 12. So you don't come back till the 23rd, and that's at the Fraction, where they take on Carolina Core for the first time this year. So Atlanta United 2 gets the weekend off, and they get the week off in the sense of matches that count in wins and losses. So that's where we are. All right. News in and around, because once again, we're trying to get everything all laid out for you. Biggest news of the morning, probably Mo Salah agreeing to the 2-year deal to stay at Liverpool. According to Chris Bascom at The Telegraph, fresh contract could be worth £25 million a season. Salah says he signed because I think we have a chance to win other trophies. And so that was there's the photo is there where he is in the top, and he's got the pen and he's smiling, and he's not quite signing, but he's smiling and he's getting ready to sign. So fresh deal, worth $25 million a year. And then there are escalators, breakthrough negotiations with Richard Hughes, keeps him at Anfield through 2027. From the outset, it was evident all parties wanted to reach an agreement to keep him there, and it is understood the deal includes bonuses and trigger clauses, performance-based incentives, basically, which he tends to activate by regularly scoring at least 20 goals a season. Could have earned more in Saudi Arabia, but recognized his enduring Premier League and Champions League ambitions, this is Bascom's words, would be served at Anfield in 45 appearances in 24-25, 32 goals, 22 assists, 243 goals in his time at Liverpool, 243 and 109. So 352 goal actions in 394 matches, playing just under 32,000 minutes to date in all comps. So, a couple of sentences, and it's all good to go. So now it looks like Virgil van Dijk is next on the list, and it looks like Van Dijk is close to agreeing to a 2-year deal himself. Telegraph reported earlier this week, expected to sign a 2-year deal. Real Madrid remain proactive in trying to get Alexander Arnold, however, in a move to Spain for Real Madrid. So that is the latest there, the biggest news out of the Premier League. And Manchester United's trying to get Liam Delap from Ipswich for a cut price of £30 million if Ipswich gets relegated. And I'm fairly certain that Ed Sheeran and everybody at Ipswich is like, no, you're not getting a cut rate deal on Liam Delap. And I'm fairly certain that a lot of folks are going to be chasing after Liam Delap, and he will be a desired commodity in the off season, and it should help out the bottom line once again for Ipswich as they are ending up in the championship. So Spurs drew. Kelly saved a penalty in Europa League as the Rangers held off Athletic Bilbao. Enzo Maresca had a lot of great things to say in Conference League after the win over Legia Warsaw. And in the World Cup 2030 news, South America officially proposes a 64-team World Cup in 2030. Expansion's already in place for the 48-team World Cup next time around. It's going to be here in this particular part of the world. Plan may eliminate qualifying in South America. Alejandro Dominguez, president of CONMEBOL, made the official proposal yesterday to expand to 64. FIFA is aware of the proposal, first introduced last March by a delegate from Uruguay during an online meeting of the ruling council. 2030 already set to be the most sprawling, according to The Guardian. 6 host nations, 3 continents, U.S., Mexico, Canada in 26. 2026 expansion already facing criticism that it devalues the group stage. Uruguay was the original World Cup host in 1930, scheduled to stage 1 match in 2030. Paraguay, Argentina, Spain, Portugal, and Morocco also co-hosting. And so you got your proponents, and the folks are saying, man, you get to 64, it's already watered down. You get to 64, you're watering it down even more. Alexander Sefrin has called the 64-team World Cup a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Mbappe, according to Reuters and AP, they're going on the attack over a missing 55 million euros in a dispute with PSG. And it appears multiple lawsuits are trying to resolve the legal dispute between Mbappe and PSG. They say the camp for Mbappe says PSG owe him 55 million euro in unpaid wages and bonuses. Lawyers say they've asked the Paris court to start proceedings. Thomas Clay has said that Mbappe had been authorized to make a precautionary seizure of the money, which was frozen from PSG's bank accounts on Thursday. Legal hearings slated for May 26. So that's the early sprint for the news. And so now we've had a draw. And I don't mean something like where, the old-fashioned Western or anything like that, or someone is trying to open up a coloring book. We had a nighttime draw. While everything else was going on the planet, we had a draw. So we know what the Gold Cup layout is at 4x4. Bringing it together for us is Bart Keeler here this morning. So, Bart, what in the wide world of sports were they doing holding a draw while there was actual action going on in the world?
John, I will give them credit. They got it done within an hour, which seems like a miracle for CONCACAF. I did hear, though, there's a rumor that they're actually going to expand to 32 teams in the spirit of, trying to make every tournament the largest tournament possible.
Of course. Hashtag largest tournament possible. That is exactly what it should be. So when you look at the draw here for this particular, the Copa Oro,
yes,
you look at the 4x4. When you look at these groups, Saudi Arabia is one where you sit there and you go, wait, what? But then you realize, oh yeah, you're a part of the dance too this go around.
Yeah.
Sure. So 4 groups of 4. Yeah, 4 groups of 4. What'd you think?
Well, as soon as we knew that Saudi Arabia was officially confirmed into this Gold Cup edition, and we kind of knew what the pots were going to be and how the groups are going to be seeded teams, I said, I bet Saudi Arabia is going to be randomly drawn into the U.S. group. And sure enough, that's what happened. I think that will obviously be a slightly tasty matchup for some geopolitical reasons. But when you look just at the U.S. group, you do have to feel very confident that they'll make it out of this group with Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago. We got the lowest ranked team from pot 1 or pot 2, which does always help, and then Trinidad, not the same team that we faced back in 2017. Saudi Arabia has also been. Saudi Arabia is a weird team to judge because they don't do too well until it comes time for tournaments, and that is a little concerning. But again, you feel confident you'll get out of the group as the group winner, which means you avoid Mexico until the final.
Yes, and so as you look at the other groups, pitfalls, challenges, who's going to be Christmas treeing their way through this? What'd you see?
Well, I think when you look at the groups, the only real group that had any sort of meaty matchup was Mexico, Costa Rica in Group A.
Ooh.
Mexico does draw Costa Rica, the number 1 ranked team, or the top ranked team, I should say, from pot 2. That is going to be probably a tasty matchup. The rest of the way, though, is a little interesting because I do think Group C, as much as Panama has had the US's number, they're going to have to face a Jamaica team that might be able to get after them. And then a Guatemala team that, I think everyone's waiting for them to get better, and they just haven't quite got to that point. Obviously, they had the whole suspension issue, John, not even a decade ago. So Group C to me is very interesting. Group B, I think Canada should take it safely, but I do think there's a battle for that second place spot. Honduras, El Salvador, Curacao, all kind of tightly grouped when you look at all of the rankings. And so that to me is actually kind of interesting, Group B, of just who does emerge from that, because there are several possibilities. And I don't think Canada is safe from winning that group, depending on how they end up playing. Who knows how many players Jesse Marsh is going to hurt within the span of their training camps. I'm sure he'll report it and be so above board with it. But let's be real straightforward. The U.S., Canada, Panama, and Mexico should win their groups. But I do think when you're looking at groups B and C, it is maybe a little bit of a question of who comes in second, but also can that second place team maybe challenge the seeded team in that group?
Okay, so can a second place team challenge a seeded team in that group?
Yeah, I definitely think that when you look at Group C, Jamaica could challenge Panama. I think Jamaica is an interesting group because we know they have a lot of talent available to them. It's just a matter of assembling it and getting them to play together well. And they do have a tendency to do well in Gold Cups. So I am curious how that will work for them. And again, I think Panama has established a great identity for themselves. That has been, I think, their biggest benefit over the past couple years, as they've been able to buy into whatever Thomas Christensen is selling them. But at some point, I think they're going to have to figure out how to actually score goals. And that continues to be a struggle for them. You can't just rely only on not giving up a goal, because we've seen Jamaica's, specifically against the U.S., but a lot of teams, Jamaica's able to just kind of pull off a worldie out of nowhere because they're very talented.
And when you have someone like Andre Blake in net,
Correct.
When you have healthy Andre Blake, that is definitely one of those things where you sit there and go, man, I can't believe we have to face that guy. And then he stands on his head, and then everybody's like, well, what happened against Jamaica? You sit there and you point and you go, well, Andre Blake happened. Hello. I mean, no real shock. But
Group C is just also, again, John, you look at the rankings, very tightly packed. Panama doing well, but then Jamaica, Guadalupe, and Guatemala are very close together. So we'll see. I'm very curious what Group C will be. Group B, again, I think Canada should win it. I don't think I see anyone giving them a run for the money, but second place will be fun.
Yes. The other reason that we wanted to have you on is the one that we traditionally do when we discuss things happening with the national team. Brazil gets their first victory over the U.S. in more than a decade.
Yeah.
And I imagine that the world has been set on fire. People are running around like Kevin in the upper staircase and Home Alone in the mid-level. It's Kevin Bacon on the sidewalk from Animal House. Stay calm, all is well. And, Kevin Bacon gets trampled and gets pushed into the sidewalk. Where are we with what happened with the 2-1 win, 4th and 43 after midweek?
Yeah. I think there are two things to look at here. One is to be obviously disappointed by not just the result, but the performance wasn't great from the U.S. outside of the first 20 minutes, really. Um, Even in both games, Brazil had way too much uh, control over the style and tempo of the game. And that does tend to be how they play matches. I mean, I will again say that I think in both matches the referee was very kind to Brazil and letting them kind of be very um, physical is a nice way to put it. Bullyish is probably the way I would put it.
Well, Brazil was Braziling, I guess.
Yeah, they are bullies on the field, and they get away with that. They are a very high defensive action team. I forget where the stat was from, but someone quoted a stat that they commit a defensive action. Let's get that out there.
There you go.
Every like 2.5 passes. So every 2.5 passes from the attacking team, actually might be lower than 2.5. They commit a defensive action. So they're making a play on the ball every 2 passes. And that played out in both games. And that was something that the US struggled with because it created some mismatches along the sideline a lot of times. And we just gave the ball away a lot. And that's that part, no matter who's playing on the field for the US women's national team, is concerning that you're giving the ball away a lot. The other kind of negative way to look at it, and I think it's fair, is that, yes, we tried out a lot of players. I think Emma Hayes made a very clear point that this year, especially this, from She Believes to now and going forward, will be a very exploratory and pool widening occasion. That's her goal. That said, it's concerning that a lot of the players she brought in to test out were not up for the challenge against Brazil. And some of the players, who needed to put on good showings didn't. Were they all bad? No, but look, winning is the standard for this team. And I think Emma has said as much. So when you look at the past 2 windows, you've lost a game in each. That's not great. Again, I think Emma said it. Winning is not the goal for these windows. Like, especially in friendlies where you can make 6 to 7 subs, depending on if you have a head injury, yes. Which we did in this game. There are a lot of variables, and obviously you didn't have your full allotment of players, but it's still concerning that those who were brought in to try out for at least backup roles, if not starting roles, didn't get the job done against Japan or Brazil. Whether that means they should come back or not is a whole nother thing, but it's part of the calculus.
Emma said after the match, I wanted to put players in the frying pan and let them feel the heat. That was the youngest capped U.S. women's national team in 24 years.
Yeah.
So what a great experience for them to feel the pressure of playing a really, really difficult opponent. Started 7 players, 22 or younger, and a midfield 21, 19, and 17. Emma said, I'm playing the long game. Quote, I'm not making decisions for the short term. I'm prioritizing the progress of expanding the player pool. And what a game. Claire Hutton and Avery Patterson. Superb. I thought Giselle Thompson battled. I thought Michelle Cooper showed glimpses. I thought Alyssa Thompson for sure has taken another step. I learned what I didn't know, and I was really happy with it.
I'm glad she learned what she didn't know. I think she's right, though. I mean, there were performances in this game and across both games in this window that are positive and can be taken as we go forward to say, okay, this player clearly belongs in this national team. I think the number one player that she mentioned and that I've been looking at, and I think anyone who's been watching NWSL this season would tell you, Alyssa Thompson's ready. Maybe wasn't ready back in 2023, but that's a whole nother thing. She's ready. And right now, when you have only one shot of espresso available to you, you need someone like Alyssa Thompson who can be, I don't know, half calf. I mean, she might be up there. She really does provide a lot of the things that Mal Swanson specifically provided on that left side. Especially in this window, I was really loving how she was moving inside from that left wing position, something she has evolved with this year. Her decision making needs to improve, but it's been pretty good. And she still has the ability to beat players 1v1 with the ball, not just with their pace. So Alyssa Thompson, probably the star from this window and the best piece of like, oh yeah, this is going forward.
Brazil now, and this is the we'll go through the numbers, obviously. Mandy McGlynn punched a 4.
Oof. We'll talk about goalkeepers.
But like I said, this is just Soccer America's numbers. And once again, this is TLH and his thoughts from Soccer America. And we know that your thoughts traditionally might be a little less harsh than what we see from TLH. Giselle Thompson, a 3. Tara McEwen, Emily Sonnet, 4s. Avery Patterson, a 6. Midfield, Corbin Albert, a 4. Lily Johannes, Claire Hutton with 5s. Up top, Michelle Cooper, a 5. Kat Macario, Alyssa Thompson with 7, in line with what you've been discussing. Subs on the day, Jaden Shaw, Alana Cook, Lindsay Heaps with 4s, Sam Coffey, Yasmin Ryan with 5s, Crystal Dunn a 4, Allie Sentner a 5. Here's your trivia. Kat Macario's goal, fastest goal for the U.S. since Uzbekistan scored an own goal after 25 seconds in April 22. Yeah. Fastest by a U.S. player since Ashley Hatch, 24 seconds in against Australia, November of 21. Least experienced starting lineup for a home match since a February 1999 friendly against Finland. Hosts China in a pair of friendlies May 31st at Allianz and at Energizer on June 3rd. Bart, Keeler, go.
Well, there were not great performances. And I think part of those numbers are because players weren't playing together well. And I think especially when you look at this midfield trio, Corbin Albert has been under a lot of scrutiny for multiple reasons. But I think right now the reason is that she just hasn't provided the U.S. what we need. And especially in this game against Brazil, where I think her skills could come into play a lot, where she's a great ball winner, a ball recovery player. She can hunt better than I think anyone else in this pool, but it really wasn't helpful. And then when the U.S. was trying to build and maintain possession, she was utterly useless. That's a problem, especially in an Emma Hayes system that is going to kind of prioritize possession. You add to that a Lily Johannes, who is not even legally able to drink in the United States. Actually, she's not even legally able to vote, I think, in the United States yet. She's that young. And Claire Hutton, who is very new to this national team and very early in her professional career as well. You know, that is a midfield trio that I think, even what I said about Corbin, you could argue is a very talented midfield trio. It just didn't get the job done at all. And I think part of that is the inexperience. I think individually they could have provided something good, but I think together that was just not a recipe for success, which for Emma, again, is kind of the question of how much is that is individual and how much of that is who they're playing with. I think the one individual that you can look at and go, okay, is this person, where does she stand, is Mandy McGlynn, who I don't think played well, as the ratings kind of showed, especially compared to Fallon Tullis-Joyce in her first start ever, keeping a clean sheet. Now, is that fair to Mandy to say, oh, well, she didn't keep a clean sheet? Not necessarily, because as I will always say, clean sheets are not only on the goalkeeper, both positively and negatively. But she did allow 2 goals and struggled a lot in this game building out of the back, which I think Emma, again, wanted to force that. We talked about after the first game, Fallon Tullis-Joyce was very happy to just send the ball long on goal kicks, which is fine. That's not what Emma wants. Mandy didn't do a great job there. And so I think when you're looking at the goalkeeper battle, Mandy did not do herself any favors this time around. And I think especially when you compare her to who the other goalkeeper was in this pool, I don't think she showed off very well. And that's really the one real individual that I'll truly go after in terms of like, did they play well or not? Because I think a lot of the other bad individual performances are also a result of no one else really being that great on the night.
According to TLH's assessment, struggled with her audition. Biggest issues came with her feet and ball distribution. McGlynn looked uncomfortable reading pressure, knowing when to hit her teammates on short passes and when to go long.
Yeah.
Five saves on the night. Smart footwork, strong hands. Little she could have done on Gutierrez's winner. Could have gotten closer to Carolyn's curling finish.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think either goal was her fault by any stretch. I even would argue that Carolyn's finish is very few goalkeepers are getting to that, especially in the women's game where you're just a little bit shorter.
I mean, it's freaking Carolyn, man.
But Carolyn is good.
Yes.
So look, sometimes look, not every goalkeeper can stop every shot, and sometimes you face a shot that is just better than anything you can do. Ask Thibaut Courtois about that from the midweek.
Yes. 37.
Gotta get that in.
Yes. Yeah. 37 shots on the night, 19-18 to the visitors, 7-6 on target. Each keeper made 5 saves, 11 corners, 8 to the U.S., 10 fouls, 6 to Brazil. So Brazil, and they got 10 fouls.
And that, again, John, that's the problem. Is I know it's a friendly, but there were too many fouls in this game that went uncalled and unmanaged.
10.
And that was the problem. I'm sorry, is when Brazil's able to kick you, run you over, push you down without any. And part of this was because Brazil did the Brazil thing where they don't do it in the immediate action on the ball.
Yeah.
They're a little late. And the referee's head has already been turned because she wasn't, using proper referee techniques where you kind of delay a little bit to make sure you're watching that challenge actually through its completion.
Yeah,
and you got to go watch.
Yeah, I'm a little late. Yeah,
oh well, that's what happens if you're going to let Brazil kick, punch, purple hair, push you, all these things. They're going to have fun.
Turn it into Monday Night Raw, exactly. Okay, so before you go and before you cut the promo for Soccer for USPOD, I did want to discuss going back into reffing down here, considering it happened after the last episode of reffing.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to discuss Messi and friends in LAFC.
Whew, okay, John.
So, and it was a point that was made. It was a point that was made in the Twitch pitch by Pars, and I wanted to walk through it with you. Where specifically the late chaos of and I'm glad that the late chaos kept us all up, especially when it came to Vancouver and their win late. Anyway, you have I think it was Marlon, if I'm not mistaken. Marlon basically body checks Messi and tried to send him into next week, and then you have the scrum where Messi and friends, the friends come in and they're like, bro, don't do that. You're getting pushing and shoving and something just short of taking a swing, depending on the individual. And then that means that LAFC players come in and you have this gaggle of probably a dozen folks in a pile. And by the time you're done sorting it all out, Marlon does get the yellow, but that's it. And I wanted to discuss.
I had an issue with this, John.
Okay, all right. So let me. I'll walk through it here. So basically, I looked at it as, okay, you're late in a match, and what you're trying to do is make sure that it finishes 11v11 in a quarter.
You don't have to try that, John.
Oh, I know. I'm saying.
So
this is one perspective of this, where you're trying to navigate to make sure that it doesn't finish 7v7. After a body check and such. So I know that you had issues with how this was navigated late, but for me it was like, calm everything down, get the match over, get everybody the hell out of there. That's kind of how I was looking at it.
Let's see. This happened in the 89th minute.
Yeah, the Messi body check. I want to say it was
John. That's late enough in the match where y'all have made your decision that you don't want to be a part of this anymore. And so to me, I would go the exact opposite of, okay, we're at 89 minutes.
Yeah.
Y'all don't want to finish this match? Great, bye. Go to the locker room, go get your shower going early, get down to South Beach before things get too late. Mm-hmm. Sorry. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but this is not a 60th minute red card that may actually impact the game, or a 30th minute red. No, we've played the whole damn game, John. You want to act a fool, go somewhere else. They got plenty of clubs down in Fort Lauderdale for that. Go do that over there that you're probably going to get kicked out for, by the way, if you do the things that you just did on the soccer field. There were multiple, maybe not punches, but open hand extensions of arms. There was grabbing. There was a headlock. There should have been at least 3 yellow cards, if not red cards, from this foray.
I mean,
And
I
I think it is embarrassing that CONCACAF has not yet released anything about this, issuing suspensions for the next game. But that would hurt Miami, John, and we can't have that.
And I understand the idea of, giving more yellows in that situation. That I can understand, considering you had the headlocks and the pushing.
Every single player who decided to run over there, they just all get it. Just say you all get yellow cards.
Okay.
Sorry. Because the headlock on Jordi Alba, after Jordi Alba, who always seems to play the victim when he starts stuff, by the way, should have got a yellow card, And furthermore, there were LAFC players who were guilty of it. And LAFC is a team that wants to be in this competition every single year. Well, that means that they would have been suspended for the next CONCACAF club competition, those players. So, I mean, this was bad refereeing, in my opinion, because this was not just, two people even putting their heads against each other like we see people do that silly or a little bit of pushing. This was a mass confrontation that needed to be dealt with better. And I think it's really spineless for the referee crew as a whole to not deliver more than just one yellow card because look, Marlon deserves a yellow card for what he did to Messi. I'm surprised that MLS hasn't levied their own fine against him for trying to hurt this, the cash cow that is Lionel Messi.
Your Apple TV subscription's been revoked, Marlon.
Yeah, something, no free Adidas boots for you this year. But there were, outside of Aaron Long, everyone else in that and that fracas was behaving like idiots and should have been carded for that. Being an idiot is worthy of a card, John. And I think referees, especially at minute 89, you have made your decision. That's the thing. Oh, I don't want to impact the game. Let the players decide it. They decided it. They have decided that they want to act a fool. They need to be reprimanded for that.
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah. So that is one train of thought as a part of all of this, and that's why I wanted to bring you in, because of the chaos that happened late. And I know that we got into mass confrontation, and you were walking us through that in the Twitch pitch the day of, but I wanted to get your thoughts about what happened in the 89th after Marlon body checked Messi and everybody came together.
I counted at least one red card, possibly two. I'll be real honest. I think a headlock is worthy of a red card. And I think taking a swipe at someone's face, Jordi Alba, is worthy of a red card. But again, they're not going to do that because then Messi's little friend can't play with him next game, and that's sad.
Yeah, well, and when soccer has a sad, that's just how. All right, so obviously you're coming back on Monday. What's the latest for Soccer for USPOD?
Well, John, these games in midweek are hard. So, and we all work. So we're going to try to record this weekend a recap of this window for the U.S. women, looking more at player evaluation than results, because there's a center back that we're going to talk about, and there's there's two center backs we're going to talk about. No, there's three center backs we're going to talk about. Center backs were not good this window, and that'll probably dominate the discussion. So we're going to be looking at the individuals and how they performed and where we go from here. Because again, Emma has said this is player exploration time and player evaluation time. Correct? That is what she said.
Yeah.
So that means that's how we should view this window. And to us, Ebony and I, and maybe Thomas, if he comes and joins us, it's going to be looking at it and say, okay, did you do enough to earn a call back for May 31st in the, those early June friendlies against China? And because again, we will have more NWSL season to look at by then. Mm-hmm. Possibly some new faces that emerge. Where do you insert someone who has earned a call up, and what means earning a call up? And then furthermore, John, again, like some of these players here, they earned the call up. Did you earn the next call up? And there's one or two that I will say, based on the texts we were sending to each other during the game,
man,
probably won't be getting a call up next, or shouldn't anyway, in our mind.
Man was fired up. All right. As always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for dropping by, especially after a draw and after a loss. And we mean that both in the figurative and literal sense. We'll catch up with you Monday at 10 in your normal time slot. Thanks for coming in.
Everyone enjoy Saturday. It should be nice weather, hopefully. So,
yep. In the 60s, we're all wearing sweatshirts, and we'll see Bart there, and we'll catch up with him then. All right. So coming up in 5 minutes, we get the Revs perspective on things with the play-by-play voice of the Revs, and it's going to be entirely too long because when I can't remember the last time someone's been on the show, it's been entirely too long. So Brad Feldman, play-by-play voice of the Revs, going to join us in about 5 minutes, and we'll break down everything Revs and get you ready from their perspective, getting ready for the matchup against Atlanta United. So Brad's going to join us in about 5 minutes. Let's go through the ref assignments, and we'll let you know who is where here for match day number 8. Toronto FC, Minnesota United, Malik Badawi's in the middle, Michael Barweg, Chris Wadham, your ARs. Matthew Soare is your 4th. Caroline Chenard is your VAR. Craig Lowry, your AVAR. Alexis De Silva is the man in the middle for United and the Revs. Tori Penso is your 4th. Kevin Stotts, your VAR. Nick Urenga, Callie Smith are your ARs in that one. Purple Team and Red Bulls, Chris Penso is the man in the middle. Logan Brown, Nick Balser, your ARs. Marcus De Oliveira is your 4th. JC Rivera is your VAR. TJ Zablocki is your AVAR. DC and FC Cincinnati, Izmir Pekmich, man in the middle. Cameron Blanchard, Gerard Carter Lebuy is your ARs. Luis Diego Arroyo is your 4th. Caroline Chenard, your VAR. Claudio Badea is your AVAR. Stad Saputo gets a match this year. Finally. At least I didn't have to drink Diet Mountain Dew on the air. Rubiel Vasquez is there for Montreal and Charlotte. Andrew Bigelow, Jeffrey Schwartzel, your ARs. Michael Venes, your 4th. Sean Tahini, Craig Lowry, your VAR, and your AVAR. At Citi Field, not quite the U12 pitch, but nevertheless still a baseball diamond with Philadelphia. Guido Gonzalez Jr. is in the middle for NYCFC and Philadelphia Union. Sorry, NYC and Philadelphia Union. Brooke Mayo, Catherine Nesbitt, your ARs. Joshua Encarnacion is your 4th. Jeff Gamble, Joshua Patlack, your AVAR, your VAR, and your AVAR. Vancouver and Austin, Victor Rivas in the middle. Jeremy Hansen, Felicia Mariscal, your ARs. Scott Bowman's your 4th. Kevin Stott, Joseph Batko in the booth. FC Dallas and Seattle, Philip Dujich, man in the middle. Megan Mullen, Kevin Locke, your ARs. Lorenzo Hernandez is your 4th. Edvin Jurasevich and John Krill in the booth. Nashville and RSL at Geodis, Jair Marufo in the middle. Corey Rockwell, Adam Garner, Sergei Demyanchuk on the field. Jorge Gonzalez, Mike Kampminer, your VAR and your AVAR. Colorado, San Diego, Sergi Boyko is the man in the middle. Corey Parker, Ben Pilgrim, Pierre-Luc Lozier on the field. Remy Touchant, Fabio Tovar in the booth. Galaxy and Dynamo, Joe Dickerson is the man in the middle. Chris Elliott, Jose De Silva, Ricardo Fierro on the field. Daniel Radford, Christian Clerc. They are in the booth. LAFC in San Jose. It is Drew Fisher at BMO with Elias Arfa and Ryan Graves. Corbin May on the field is your 4th. JC Rivero, TJ Zablocki, your VAR and your AVAR in the booth. Sunday Sporting in Portland at Children's Mercy. Armando Villarreal in the middle. Jeremy Kiso, Eric Weisbrod, Alan Chapman is your 4th. Sean Tahini, Joshua Patlack, you're in the booth. Fire and Messi and Friends, John Freeman, no relation, in the middle. Corey Richardson, Ian McKay, your ARs. Gerald Flores is your 4th. Edvin Jurasevich and Fabio Tovar in the booth. And it is all caps hosting Crew on Sunday Night Soccer at Energizer. Rosendo Mendoza is the man in the middle. He'll call about 27 1/4 fouls. Kyle Atkins and Matthew Rodman, your ARs. Fotis Bazakos, your 4th. Ricardo Montero Araya is in the booth with Jonathan Johnson. And that is your ref assignments on match day number 8. So that's where we are. Let me say hi to everybody before we are joined with our guest for a long time coming. So a morning Dell, morning Abby. Let's see, morning David. And let's see, like I said, I'm scanning. So, yes, morning Jordan. And let's see. So we got rid of the bot. We always like to do that. We like to get rid of the bot. Abby posted a YouTube short for those who wish to look at the scrums. And then David with the point to Bart about Alana Cook. So looks lost. So once again, Bart will be back with us in his normal time slot on Monday at 10. And we'll break down everything that's attached to the U.S. Women's National Team, Men's National Team, anything else that we missed on the weekend as we get ready for the Soccer for U.S. POD as well. So it's going to be It's going to be a fun weekend, going to be a long weekend, and so that's where we are. Since we are in hour number 2, let's go through some of the juice boxes that are attached to matches that are around the board. Once again, 2:30. Like I said, this is the 2:30 kick listing. It is not the 2:30 kick in and of itself. So it is the must-watch matches. Season Pass gets the 2:30 matchup with Toronto and Minnesota. And with that one, once again on Season Pass at BMO, your juice box is there. Toronto is a plus 181. Draws a plus 241. Minnesota United is a plus 144. We'll skip Atlanta United and then the Revs for the discussion later. At 4:30 listing, once again, so 4:40 in Central Florida, it is the Purple Team and Red Bulls. They are going at it. And your juice box is there. Purple Team a minus 130. Your draws a plus 275. Red Bulls on the road a plus 334. I find that number intriguing. CF Montreal got the home match. They're hosting Charlotte. Charlotte will not have Wilf Zaha because of apparently surgery on his thumb. And the doctors are saying that they want the scarring to take hold before any kind of pressure or contact can be made. So there will be no Wilf Zaha this weekend for Charlotte. They are a dog. At Stade Saputo at a plus 183. Draw is a plus 241. CF Montreal is a plus 141, which I find interesting considering where they are in the schedule and in the standings, but we'll find out what the deal is, when you're locked in there, and we'll see how they respond to being at Stade Saputo. Traditionally a tough place to play, but we'll see what happens when it comes to Stade Saputo. First match of the year, Montreal favored. Charlotte has no Wilf Zaha, and that one is a 7:30 on Apple TV Plus and MLS Season Pass. Also on the board at 7:30, 7:40, DC United favored at a plus 127, hosting FC Cincinnati, who's a plus 190. Your draw is a plus 262. Mentioned NYC and Philadelphia Union. NYC is a plus 129, hosting Philadelphia Union at Citi Field. Philadelphia Union a plus 185, draws a plus 262. NYC is a plus 129. Vancouver and Austin to finish up your 7:30, 7:40s. Vancouver is a minus 110 coming off of playing in the midweek. Austin is a plus 294 heading to BC Place, and your draw is a plus 252. And as I said, it's been entirely too long. See, if I can't remember the last time that someone has been on the show, it has been entirely too long. And so that's how we're phrasing things. It's been entirely too long since Brad Feldman has visited the show. And so, so now we bring Brad in. Welcome back to the morning show, my friend.
Hey, good to be on. How you doing?
Doing great. It's been entirely too long since we've had you. And what I wanted to do for our listeners and our viewers here in the Southeast is kind of go back and bring everyone forward from the beginning of the season to now so they can get their education on the Revs getting ready for Atlanta United. Expectations coming into the season, what was the level of optimism? What were the thoughts coming into the 2025 year?
The Revs did a near total rebuild in the offseason. Last year didn't go according to plan. Only 7 wins, finished out of the money in the playoff picture. And Caleb Porter's first year was a frustrating one for the team and the fan base. And so sporting director Kurt Anolfo and his staff helped Porter do a real churn, a real turnover with 14 new players coming in. And so I believe an honest framing of the expectations would have been optimistic, but cautiously so, because you didn't know so many of these players, or if you did, you weren't sure how they were going to gel with one another and in Porter's system. And, if you look just at the standings right now, it would look like it hasn't worked, but I think that the noise so far hasn't, fans are right to be entitled to be impatient, but I would say that coming in, the expectations were what they still are, which is to make the playoffs. And it's early enough in the season still that that's not out of the question, but they need to get busy soon because they only have 1 win from 6. So, I think, there's noise out there on the transom that's not very positive, but the mood within the camp is still very professional and forward looking.
I was going to say, where are the pitchforks and the tiki torches right now, wandering around Foxborough as opposed to the patients?
We're not quite there. We're not quite there yet, but it's people want some wins.
Completely and totally understand it. Why that's concerned with Caleb Porter in this offense, and that's the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that only a handful of goals this year, and Carlos Heel with his 2-goal performance against Red Bulls is accounting for most of that. How much of a concern is the lack of offense in the results so far?
That's the main concern, quite honestly, is the lack of finishing. Now, full disclosure, they've only had their new striker, former Inter Miami striker Leo Campana, for a couple of games. And so the plan has not really been executed, according to script. Without Campana, they have looked toothless up front. But like last week in the loss at Cincinnati, they hit the post twice. Could have been a different story. Even against Red Bull, where both goals came from set pieces, a free kick, world-class free kick from Carlos Heel and a penalty late, they could have scored twice. They got good service from the right wing, and Ignatius Ganago drove the ball right on the goalkeeper when he had the whole goal to look at. And, those are pretty big chances. They had north of two expected goals over the 90 minutes. So it's not as if they're not generating attacking chances. They just aren't converting. And that's the thing. And we know very well in our low scoring sport, you got to take your chances when you create them or they're presented. Otherwise, you can end up on the wrong end of score lines that look unfair. Quite honestly, they're bossing the match in the first half at Cincinnati. And then, there is a incorrect throwing call, which happens all the time. Rez relax for a second. They give up the goal. And then Cincinnati play pretty conservatively to protect a 1-0 lead at home. The Revs are organized. Their patterns of play are really good. The game model, as Caleb Porter likes to call it, seems to be generating attacking play. But Maxi Urruti, who's one of the great old heads in the league, was brought in to be a guy off the bench to spell Campana or Ganago in the late stage of the games. Having, he's an old 33, right? Like it feels like he's been in the league forever. I think his first year is 2012 or something, but he doesn't look like a guy who wants to press for 90 minutes. He just doesn't have it in his legs. He's great for 10, 15 minutes at a time. And, I think also the Revs first couple of weeks were, working in their sort of fullback complement. First, Will Sands and more importantly, Peyton Miller were not 100% fit. With Miller back now, they get more attacking play down the left. And Luca Langoni on the right, who's really a winger, wasn't playing his game. They've gotten through to him what his game is, and now that he's able to run in behind, again, like the Revs are generating offense. They have him in. They don't have an animal up front who's a lights out goal scorer. When Campana comes back, they're hoping they do.
I was going to ask. You're reading my notes. Where is Campana when it comes to being back and being a part of this offense?
I was on a conference call with Caleb Porter yesterday where I think he was quite genuinely unsure. I think that Campana is either going to be fit to make the match day squad tomorrow or a week from tomorrow. It's not certain yet. Like he's training, but they want to be judicious in sort of unleashing him because they don't want this to be a recurring thing. He did a hamstring. And so I think more importantly, in the immediate future, Tomas Shankalai, DP winger, usually plays on the left side, another Argentinian for the Revs. He blew out his ACL last year, and it's been, the normal progression back, but I think he's a step closer to returning. But how's that? They both could be in the squad. Neither likely to be in the starting 11 based on the way they sort of dole out minutes to guys coming back from these injuries. But obviously Shankalai returning from a longer term injury in the the performance people and the athletic trainers, they have a schedule they want to keep. And, even if Shankala has been training full, I think for almost 2 full weeks now, but they're not going to give him 90 minutes or even 60 minutes, most likely. But he's a guy who, can fire from anywhere. And even if he's not the one scoring, opens up space for other people because he's a constant goal threat in the attacking third. So, I think you're going to see one or both available against Atlanta. And it's just a question of how many minutes and if both are in the squad.
All things being equal, how are you anticipating the starting 11 rolling out from what you've been able to glean from Caleb Porter?
Ooh, it's hard to say. I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw against Cincinnati. Matt Polster has been so good. He wasn't even really projected to start. They acquired Jackson Ewell after 8 years in San Jose, and he's been fine. He actually made a bit of a difference coming on late, making some runs out of midfield, but he's more of a technical possession type player. In terms of battling in the midfield, Polster still has all of his energy and range and legs. And so I think that's the one real question. I'm assuming both center backs, Ceballos and Fofana, and 2 new players in the league who have been good. The Revs have been very solid defensively. They've been in every game. They haven't given up more than 2 goals. And, that's usually, that was when they were, that was Philly, and they were pushing and stretched a little bit. So, Carlos Heel's a dead on certainty to start. Another new player, Eli Feingold, a 20-year-old Israeli who can play on either, at either fullback position. Likely would be the right back. Again, Peyton Miller, assuming he's still fit. Watch out for that kid. He is a horse. He looks like a grown man. He's 17 years old. He's got a national team and European potential. He's still, getting his sort of game IQ to where it needs to be, but he's got all the tools and can really impose himself on a game. And, the wingers have been, I left out Al Hassan Yusuf, who's been very good, Nigeria international, ball winner, but not like a crunching tackler. He'll slide tackle more than most players nowadays, but he's not a dirty player. He just gets around the pitch, covers every, blade of turf, and really rangy. It's been Ganago and Langoni on the wings. That could change. I don't think Shankala comes in. Luis Diaz has been a guy off the bench who's done well replacing Langoni, helped create one of the goals against New York Red Bulls. But I still think Langoni, he was very good against Red Bulls 2 weeks ago and pretty good against Cincinnati. They want him hugging the touchline, getting chalk on his boots, and then running him behind using his pace. And then, heel behind Urruti is the most likely scenario, but you could see Ghana go up top with Carlos underneath, and they push somebody else wide, or Carlos heel starts at one of the wide positions and then has a free roll. We've seen that in the past with Porter and the previous coaches. So, but I think, you're picking 11 from the 13 guys I mentioned. So, and then Alijas Ivicic has been the goalkeeper, every game going back to last year. I don't see that changing. Alex Bono is the backup, but barring injury, that's, and I don't think, Ronnie Dyla is going to, he's going to know that that's probably the group, unless they throw a curveball and all of a sudden Campana's closer than we realize and he starts up top. I haven't heard any noise to that effect, but they keep it pretty close to the vest in these situations. So, that's what I would expect.
Brad Feldman, voice of the Revs for the Revs education here on a Friday in the hour of chaos, as we call it, or at least I'm calling it the hour of chaos just because. I'm going to have you play defensive coordinator here for a second. You've seen Carlos Hill. You know what he can do. You know the magic that he can create. If you were, say, in an American football parlance, defensive coordinator, and you were forced to try to make Carlos Hill be uncomfortable and do things that he doesn't like to do, and the Revs still have to try to create, how would you defend Carlos Hill? How have teams been successful in defending Carlos Hill in the past?
You're sure you're not sharing this with the coaching staff now, right?
Hey, Ronnie. No.
Yeah.
No.
No, listen, that's not a secret. He's one of the most fouled players since he's come into the league in 2019. Carlos Hill. People have tried to stop him a lot of different ways, but the 2 main tactics that we've seen is, one, get somebody who's super mobile and, shadow him in a way that, they force it. He's going to receive the ball.
Yeah.
The further from goal he receives it. And the less he's able to receive it in transition or when, the attacking team has numbers forward, so he has fewer defensive players between him and the goal, the less effective he can be. He can still, surgically dissect an opposing team that has two banks of four between him and the goal with a little through ball combination, a little dribble sucks in the defender, and a little dink chip over the top, or he opens things up with an inch perfect switch. But what you don't want is for Carlos to get the ball, turn, pick up his head, and run at you, because he even at 33 he can slide by you on the dribble quicker than you think. You never know when he's going to release the ball. He's inch perfect with his key passes and all that. So, then the other thing is to, I hate to say it, can't kick lumps out of him, and teams will do that. But what has to then happen is that the referees set a tone early with a yellow card or, call the fouls. Carlos sometimes gets frustrated. He doesn't get off his game when you frustrate him. He just gets more motivated. So that, like, the psychological component, like getting in his head, doesn't work. But, he's not the most physically imposing player. And, we've seen other teams go right up against the edge of playing dirty, which I don't like. I mean, they should respect, he's an immaculate player and a great professional, a credit to the league, but he's very competitive. It's pro ball. And I think that, that's one of the reasons also why Polster's out there is to police that a little bit. And so, I hope it doesn't disintegrate into something like that, where they're trying to kick him into the third row.
Yeah.
I know there's a good respect between Ronnie Dyla and Caleb Porter. And we've seen in the past, Dyla's teams have played it the right way against Carlos, trying everything within the laws of the game to limit him. And I think that's what's going to happen. But Carlos is, he's worth the trip to the stadium. He's great.
Yep. He has caused issues for Atlanta United fans at Mercedes-Benz in the past. So
yeah. And he knows Brad Guzan too. They played together at Villa.
Yeah. So that is there with that as well. So then I ask you the defensive coordinator question to kind of go into this follow-up. So if Carlos Heel is not allowed to create, who are some of those next level guys that may not necessarily get the Brad Feldman spot shadow in the show open that folks need to gravitate toward to be wary of if you're an Atlanta United fan going up against New England? If Carlos Heel isn't, then whom?
Well, I've already alluded to it. It's the wing play. Certainly Luca Langoni, and I think Luca is going to love it on the Mercedes-Benz Stadium field because there's a lot of room out there. Like I was saying on another show, people at NYCFC get very defensive if you say that the Yankee Stadium field is more than 2 feet narrower than standard. It looks like it's 10 feet skinnier than a normal MLS field. I've never paced it off, I can't say, but it just psychologically feels that way, like it's cramped on the wings. And I think that when you go to Atlanta, it feels like the reverse is true, that there's even more space out there on the flanks than what the official field dimensions would suggest. That favors a Luca Langoni, who is just, lightning quick, times his runs really well. And like I said, against Red Bulls 2 weeks ago, was really putting in great crossing passes. And so down that right flank, he could be a danger. On the other wing, the way the Revs play is they really like to get that left fullback forward. And Peyton Miller, and, sometimes his crossing is really good and sometimes it leaves something to be desired, but he gets it right enough of the time. And then, Gana Go, who's he's an international player. Like he just hasn't found the scoring touch. He'll unsettle a defense. And then I don't, going through, the list, and then Eli Feingold, he's both powerful and technical and will tuck inside, but can overlap. He'll also drop a shoulder and go through you. Like he's another young player. And they just need to get somebody on the end of those, that service from all 3 or 4 of those players. And one of the guys who needs to get on the end of it and finish is going to go. Like I said, he's been hitting the goal. He's been getting to the right spots. He's been taking on defenders, getting taken down in the box for a penalty. And, it's like everything but the finish. And it has to come good sooner or later. But those are the guys I'd really watch.
I had to, when you mentioned Yankee Stadium, I had to go to the Peter Vermes quote. And so Peter Vermes measured it off when he was managing at Sporting, and he said it's 106 by 68.
68, yeah.
That's what Peter Vermes said at the time. So when you were mentioning the U12 pitches, we joked.
Yeah. 68 is about what I think. Like they say it's 70. It's really 68. It looks 65.
Yes. So at 68, we're rounding up because it's more than 67 and a half. We're rounding up to 70.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's about right.
I know you've got other stuff to do, and I can't thank you enough for doing this. Go ahead and hit the promo for me for folks and how they can listen to you 24/7, 365, not just tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, we're on 98.5, the Sports Hub, tomorrow at 2:30, the flagship station, number one sports station, New England. And when we're not, we're on HD2 for all home games. You can tune into the home radio option with a couple clicks of the button on Apple TV+.
As always, my friend, great to see you. It's been entirely too long. You now have the keys to the castle. You want to come in and vent in the hour of chaos in this 10 o'clock hour on Fridays, talk about your match and get out. You can. You got the keys. You're welcome anytime. Good to see you.
Thanks, John. Good to see you.
All right. That's Brad Feldman, play-by-play voice of the Revs. He's got like 19 different things he's doing today, and we like squeezed him in. Squeezed. We jammed him in, and he was incredibly generous and gracious with his time to give us the background and the breakdown of everything going on with the Revs. So there's your Revs 101, and that is our goal every week, is to come up with an individual that we can have here on the show at some point in the week, and if we can have him on Friday, fantastic. So then that way we get the education for all of you who are interested in this particular matchup. You get the visitor's perspective as you get ready for everything. And I kind of know who we want to grab next week when it comes to Philly, and we'll find out if we can grab this particular individual and see if we can get them on the show at some point to discuss what's going on with Philadelphia Union and Bradley Carnell and the Philly version of Bradley Carnell going up against Atlanta United next week. But we had Brad on this week. It was great to catch up with him. Great to see him. And it really has been entirely too long. So that was why and we want to talk to the other side. So that way you are an informed watcher and we get informed too. Basically, we get intel, you get intel, we're all happy, and then you can go to the match and watch what everything's going on with that. But no, thanks to Brad for dropping by for the first time in a long time and being here on the morning show. All right, let's pick back up with the juice boxes and what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it, and all that kind of stuff. So we did the 740 kicks, 840 kicks, FC Dallas and Seattle. And if you missed the conversation that we had with our buddy Nico Moreno yesterday about the Jesus Ferreira revenge game, then you can go back and listen to that on the network on your favorite podcatcher, or you can go back and watch yesterday's show. Just go to the last half hour or so, and you get to find out what's going on there with Seattle and with FCD, and you can lock that down as well. So Seattle and FCD, that reminds me, I've got to get the segment to Nico. So FCD at home is a plus 160. Your draw is a plus 225. Seattle is a plus 170. Nashville and RSL at Geodis. Right now, Nashville is on the minus side. RSL traditionally very, very difficult for them to execute full points on the road. It's on season pass at 840. And in this particular matchup, juice boxes are a minus 120 for Nashville. Draws a plus 271. RSL is a plus 311. No real surprise. 9:30 at 9:40 at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce City, Colorado, along with the Rabid Prairie Dogs. Colorado is hosting San Diego FC. Colorado is a favorite, but on the plus side at a plus 138. Draws a plus 258. San Diego FC in the composite is a plus 175 on season pass. Then your West Coast games, it is LAG and Houston. That one is once again on season pass from Dignity Health Sports Park for a 1040 kick. And that one is LAG plus 117. Houston is a plus 217, and your 90-minute draw is a plus 248. LAFC and San Jose is a 1040 start. That one is also at BMO on season pass. And that one, in those numbers, LAFC is a minus 185. After everything that happened in the midweek, they're not putting a whole lot of value on San Jose. LAFC had to travel across country to go play at the Erector Set to go up against Messi and friends in a CONCACAF second leg quarterfinal. Then they have to come all the way back to play at home late night Saturday on season pass, and they're a minus 185. Someone please explain that one to me. Minus 185 for LAFC. San Jose has to hop on a flight and drop down the coast at a plus 437. That hasn't changed much. It's pretty much been locked in that north of plus 430. Your draw's a plus 340. Keep an eye on that one. That one is intriguing across the board. You have the 3 matches. Then again on Sunday, the 2:15, the 4:30, and the 7 Eastern for Sunday night soccer. It is Kansas City and Portland, listed as a 2:15, so that means 2:25. 2:25 Eastern at Children's Mercy Park. It's on season pass. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's on Big FOX, and it's on Fox Deportes. So 2:25, Sporting Kansas City and Portland. Carries Zavagnin in his first home match, I believe, in charge. Plus 114, hosting Portland, who's a plus 221. 90-minute draw is a plus 254. I'm looking at totals maybe in this one. So looking at the over and under in this one, 2.5 is a minus 151. 3.5 is a plus 160. So if you're thinking it's going to be 2-2, you can get that at a plus 160. Keep an eye on that one. 4:30, meaning 4:40 at Soldier Field on Apple TV Plus and season pass. It is Chicago Fire and Messi and friends. So how does Messi and friends, or how do Messi and friends, how do they, to get the plural pronoun correct? Fire are a plus 175. Your draws a plus 266. And Inter Miami, Inter Fort Lauderdale, Messi and friends on the road are a plus 134. So let's go back and take a peek at the lineup that they had in midweek and what it might look like when it comes to possible rotations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, quoting Yul Brynner and the King and I. So here's what it was like in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza in the win against LAFC. I don't want the head-to-head. I want the rated players, and I don't want play-by-play. I don't want player of the match. It's like, all I want is just the lineups. That's all I want. All right, so here was the lineup. Oscar Ustari in net, 8 saves and an 8.8. Back 4, they have it listed as a 4-4-2. Cello Weigand, Falcone, Noah Allen, Jordi Alba, Allende, Bright, Redondo, Segovia, Messi, and Suarez. That was your starting lineup in that matchup. And so now they go to Chicago as a plus 134 favorite. Chicago's a plus 175, draws a plus 266. Sunday Night Soccer is all caps hosting Crew at Energizer, and the Juice Boxers have thrown basically a blanket over the whole thing, plus 160 to plus 161 on either side. Your draws a plus 238. So there you go.
Juice Boxers isn't a term, John.
It is now.
Okay, fair enough.
The Juice Box Purveyors. How about that?
That's better.
All right. So you are there.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie is here. And so it is. And so Maddie is sporting her sweatshirt, getting ready for. Where are you getting ready for practice? Where are you?
I'm just chilling. I just came back from my passport appointment, so
Okay, so we have success with the passport appointment.
Success with the passport, guys. Maddie Cruz is going to be international here shortly. Watch out.
Okay.
Dangerous.
Exactly.
International incidents will be happening.
Whoa. Why would you say that? We'll have a great time. What do you mean?
Just saying.
Where are we going to have these international incidents? That's my next question.
Who knows?
Who knows? Everywhere.
Yes. We had Brad Feldman on to start hour number 2 to kind of get the breakdown of the Revs. Jason, let me start with you. What has your week been like at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground as Atlanta United gets ready for said Revs?
Yeah, I think just getting a feel for how everything was processed from last week. It's a weird game last week where you were better defensively than you've been for a lot of the season. You were really good outside of one major chance that you give up, and you get punished for it, and it's frustrating. They weren't as good on the offensive side, and I think some of that's down to Moranchuk being only available for 20, 30 minutes with the adductor injury. He's a full go, it sounds like, for this weekend. Like they weren't quite as, I don't know, on the gas in the first half is maybe the best way to put it. They got the goal, and it was a brilliant ball from Tristan Muyamba, who was outstanding last week, and I think is becoming undroppable in the central midfield. But you get the goal, and it felt like that's one of those games that so often at the Bends we've seen them kick on and really put a team under pressure. And at times this season, maybe that conversation has been, well, they did that, but they didn't get the goal to show for it. In this game against Dallas, I don't feel like they did that enough. I didn't feel the urgency that was needed with the advantage. And that's something that just needs to continue to develop in this group, that feel. You're what? They started in mid-January. You're not quite 3 months in. I was reminded this week of Frank de Boer talking about when he took over, and 6 months was what he wanted to be able to put his stamp on the team. And what he wanted to do was different than what Tata Martino had done. And Tata had evolved too, and that's always an element that we forget when we talk about Atlanta United in 17 and 18. They ended up looking different at the end than they did at the beginning because Tata got to know the league and he adapted. Frank de Boer needed to progress the team to a different level. If you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, even if a previous manager did it and it worked or it didn't work or whatever, you're going to get found out one way or another. You have to always evolve. So for Ronnie Dyla to come in and take what was the team at the end of last season, 6 months feels like a realistic ask, and especially when you're adding, you're getting a full season of Moranchuk. You're getting Miguel Almiron back into the league. He's got to adapt. You got to adapt to him. Latte Lot into the league for the first time. You got to adapt to him. He's got to adapt to the league. You're getting some different pieces, and you're getting a full season of Pedro Amador as well. He's got to adapt to that. You've had some injuries to deal with, which you always do. That's always part of it. But it's a decent bit. And I think more than anything, you're adapting to a new mentality. And I don't think they're all the way there yet. I do think, and it's easy to sit here and look at the record and get, frustrated or angry or whatever. Say, it's not good. No. It actually is pretty good. It's not as good as it could be. That's a very different conversation. Compare Atlanta United and New England Revolution in terms of what 2025 has been. New England, it hasn't been good, and they had more change in the offseason. It's a really hard job for Caleb Porter to get the team where he wants, and they're not showing that they're there. They're not showing that they're close to being there. The frustration in Atlanta is different. It's, man, we see it, and we see it for periods of time, and it's really close, and it's really good, but it's not that all the time. That's a different conversation. We can't just do the stomp our feet, throw our hands in the air, be angry about everything. This is a different frustration. Be specific. We want it to be consistent. You want to see the team continue to improve defensively. You want to see them not get punished for mistakes. You don't want to see them drop off when they have those moments of where they get questioned a little bit. And you want to see them with that increased urgency in the attack and be aggressive and be nasty at times and flood the attacking half and go use that quality to put games away. And when you have a team on the ropes, knock them out. Like, that's such a different conversation, and that's where it needs to be. And I feel good about what we're seeing with Ronnie Dyla and this team. I want to see more of it for longer periods of time, and I want to see the payoff from it.
Maddie, what's the week been like for you?
I mean, yeah, Jason kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. But But no,
Sorry,
I mean,
I got ranty.
no, it's all good. Hey, it's what it's here for, you know? No, I mean, I agree. I think, you know, in that last game against Dallas, you could have put it away. You had a couple of times to put it away, and you didn't. You let Dallas hang around. You let them hang out all the way up until the end, and, you know, you were the better team. And it just, you didn't have anything to show for it. And it's going into this weekend, you gotta start making those chances count. And I agree with Jason. Like, I think with every game we've seen, like, we've seen improvement in different ways. You know, it's weird. You can look at a game and it can be like, oh, well, I didn't see it there. This is there. Like, I think we've seen a progression in what we've seen.
I think the one that was an issue was NYC, and you get the win, but the performance wasn't as good as it had been in previous games.
Yeah.
But you won, which is still something you carry.
Yeah, and it's a weird one because, you know, I think from looking at this week in training and specifically, like, I really loved seeing the conversations that were happening, especially on Tuesday. We touched on it in training or in dispatch, but I just want to hit it again because we watched. There was a sequence in a scrimmage, and it was Alexi and it was Ronnie Dyla. After it was done, like, Alexi was trying to point out like what he was thinking in this one play, where it should go, where he was thinking the pass would be, where the attacker was going to aim in the box, how that was going to work. Ronnie came over and chatted with him, and they talked and they went through about like what they were thinking, what was happening there, and they talked it through. And that stuck with me. I asked Alexi and Ronnie, we asked them about it on yesterday, and, you know, it's important to chat. It's important to talk. It's important to be open enough to say, hey, here's what I saw. What do you think? Well, what did you see? What do you think? What needs to happen here? And I think that dialogue is really important, especially, I think, between Alexi and Ronnie, because Alexi is someone you want as your playmaker, and that's important to have him be able to chat with Ronnie about what he's seeing on the field, what he's seeing, what Ronnie sees, and how he can help Alexi pick out those moments as well with Latte Laugh, with Mickey, with Saba. But it's important for the players as well to say, hey, here's what we see on the field. How does this translate for you? Like, how do we make these pieces work? And, you know, it's like Ronnie said, it's a painting. You're still making this painting. It's, you know, it could be like Mona Lisa. Like, you're still working on it. And it's getting there, you know, but it's like, hey, if this one thing doesn't work and this stroke maybe looks weird, you know, let's change it. Let's fix it. Let's make it look nice. And it's slowly coming together. And I think that's the thing that needs to hit home. It's not going to click immediately. Some teams do. Some teams don't. I feel like it's very rare you see teams that just click immediately. It takes time.
Usually the ones that do don't actually get better.
Yeah. And I think
That's
you're seeing the growth. You're seeing the growth between the players. You're seeing the growth and the team as a whole. And, you know, you're seeing it all grow, not only on the field, but also off of it.
Maddie, do me a quick favor. Log out and log out. Lip flapping a little bit. So go ahead and log out and log out.
Will do.
All right. So
Forsyth
Maddie,
County reception is a mess.
you ain't kidding, brother. So with your study of the Revs, what have you seen this week with getting ready for Carlos Heel and the madness that could come with him?
Carlos Hill's scary. I
Yes.
mean, that's the thing about this New England Revolution team is Carlos Hill can fix things. They're still kind of figuring out what they're going to be. I think they had, if I remember right, like 15 signings coming into this season, which is crazy. I mean, it's a brand new team. That's an expansion team almost. So you're not going to have a whole lot of coherence in the way that you want to be with all of those changes. You just can't. But you look at New England and you look at what I think there's pressure on Caleb Porter, and it's not so much about this season, it's about what happened in the past. And you needed to hit the ground running quickly, and you haven't. And it's understandable why you haven't, but 1-4-1, you've only scored 3 goals. And that's the number one thing. But you've only conceded 7. Now, that's the other element that is something to understand here is that you're in a decent spot on that side of it defensively. That part has come together a little bit with a lot of changes and with a lot of new faces, but you're all right defensively. You just haven't gotten anything going forward yet. I mean, Maxio Ruti started last week. I feel like he's played for every team but Atlanta in MLS. Heel can kill you. Langoni and Ganago haven't quite found it yet. But your one win this season for New England was a really good one. It's over the Red Bulls. That's not easy to pull off. That doesn't happen all that often. And you got that in the bag. So I think for Atlanta, you got to look at a back line that has been pretty good, but a back line that has a lot of new faces. You got to put them under pressure. You got to stress test them. And in the attack, you just have to make sure you know where Carlos Heel is at all times. You look at the way he's been used this season, and think back to previous times under Bruce Arena where Heel would play as a winger, but not really be a winger. He would tuck inside. I know that's crazy. When you start in a position on the map, like you have to stay in that position at all times. You can't move anywhere and you can't show any other qualities. Like if you're a winger, you're a winger. You have to stay on that side. If you're a 10, you're a 10. You can't move anywhere. If you're an 8, a 6, whatever, you can't move. Just saying. Carlos Heel has been more central this year to start. And I think that makes it a little bit easier to deal with. I thought he was always such a challenge in the past when he would be in that right wing position, for example, and he would fill the position a lot of times, but then kill you by coming inside. So you get into this push-pull defensively of like, okay, if he's the right winger, then you're thinking your left back's got to deal with him defensively. But when he comes into the middle, then either the left back's got to come into the middle too. And if New England's right back, which Brandon Bye for so many years would get forward and then take that space, you're in trouble. So then your left back has to stay home. So then you got to pass Carlos Heel off to one of your central midfielders, or a center back's got to step out, and then everything can get pulled apart. If he's your 10 for New England and he's staying central, it's a little easier to figure out who's got him. You still got to get him, which isn't easy, but you at least know who is going to do that. Heel's the one. I mean, I think as New England puts it together, they're going to need him to put the Superman cape on, and more often than not in the first half of the season. And teams have been able to limit that so far. He continues to get older, and we know how that goes. That's the concern for me. Don't give up set pieces. Don't let Carlos Heel get away from you. If you can bottle him up, I think you can handle everything else. And then you've just got to stress that defense. And I go back to what I said against Dallas. If you get that first goal, which you need to get at home, you need to then go get the second and the third. You need to go put the game away. Be aggressive. That needs to be the accelerator, not the decelerator, the first goal. And that's what I'd want to see on Saturday afternoon.
Maddie, what kind of match are you looking for in this one?
Am I muted or am I good?
You're
good. And you're not weirdly robotic.
Okay, I think I know what it was. I think my Bluetooth was connected to my car and it was being weird. So I think we're good now. Amazing.
I still blame
we're
Forsyth County. I still blame Forsyth.
It's fair. It's fair. Fair enough. I get it. I mean, listen, I think, yeah, I know you want to see Atlanta, I think, come out on the front foot, but then you want them to stay on the front foot. I think when you get that goal, when you do get that early goal, like, don't let it bring you down. Don't say, oh, don't be comfortable. And I don't think that was the case. I don't think it was Atlanta being comfortable. It was just you didn't put the game away. You had chances and you just let DC stay in it. When you were dominating, when you were holding them down, when you were out there not allowing them to create a lot of good chances, you didn't let them do anything until really the second half. And that's something you got to do. You got to just hold on. And I want to see them not only step on the gas, but continue to be on the gas for the entire game, because we know they can. We know they can. We've seen it in multiple games. I mean, I go back to the NYC one. Yes, it wasn't the best performance, but you went down 3-1 and you came back to win it 4-3. Like, I think about that because that shows the fight that this team has.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously you want us to be on top the entire time. You want it to be 3-1 all the way through and we get the win that way. But for me, the games where you do get the grit and you drive and you are able to come back after being down 3-1 and are able to win it at home in such a short amount of time, that shows the personality and the identity of this team. That shows what this team is made of. That shows the fight that this team has. And
it does. And I think that's why I was so disappointed with Dallas. Because
yeah, absolutely.
You saw that fight and that you saw the desperation. I mean, you're losing, so it's desperate. It's not urgent. It's two different things. But they should be related. And you didn't see the urgency with the lead in the same way you saw it coming from behind
Yeah.
against NYC. You know it's there.
Yeah.
And now you need to see it more consistently on a regular basis. That's the next step.
Yep. I completely agree.
All right, Jason, what else are you looking at from the weekend that will be in Major League Soccer?
I mean, you mentioned it when I was coming on with Miami and LAFC and Vancouver. You have to look at what they're able to give this weekend, with all three dealing with a variety of things. LA Galaxy as well, they got an extra day, but all of them are dealing with some pretty big challenges with CONCACAF, because now you're talking about 4 games of CONCACAF on top of your regular season, and short rest, and the chaos that was Miami and LAFC, and the chaos that was Vancouver and Pumas, and the chaos that was LA Galaxy and Tigres. To be fair, LA Galaxy really stepped up and gave you a fight there. And you're looking at all of them in this weekend and saying, what does Vancouver have in the tank hosting Austin after what they had to do to come back? What does Miami have in the tank? What does LAFC have in the tank? And LAFC and LA Galaxy have late night Saturday night games. Vancouver's got an earlier Saturday game for them, a 4:30 local game. I think if you're looking at those 4 teams, Miami, of course, gets the extra day because, I don't know, figure it out. I have no idea. Miami goes to Chicago and they have to deal with 1 extra day's rest. It's going to be a challenge. There's just no way around it for all of them. I don't think all of them are going to be in favorable positions here. You look at other games. I mean, Charlotte with no Wilfred Zaha, they got to go to Montreal. Can Montreal continue to try to rally here after moving on from Courtois? And they've got the interim, and are they going to fight for him? Nashville without Walker Zimmerman, they're going to host RSL. That's one that I've got my eyes on, because the flip flops on Nashville have been wild this season. They looked bad, and some people were saying that early on. Then they looked good, and it's they're a great team, and then they didn't look good again, and it's like, well, now they're still good, but they're not as. I mean, they've been too inconsistent, and I don't think they're as good as that 3-game winning streak showed. And now without Zimmerman, I don't know if they're good. Period.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big challenge. Dallas hosting Seattle. I think that's one that Dallas should take momentum out of what they did in Atlanta and be able to continue to build on that under Eric Quill. And obviously, because Atlanta's going to see Philadelphia next week, I'm going to be keeping an eye on NYC and Philadelphia Saturday night.
Maddie, what about you?
Yeah, I think you look at the teams that went through CONCACAF, and I'm interested to see how it's weird. I'm interested to see how Inter Miami handles it, because you played Messi, you played, I believe, I'm trying to remember who came out. Luis Suarez, he came out for a little bit, but Messi played the entire time. And
Busquets had the day off, so that helped you a
Yes.
little because he was suspended.
Yes. Yeah, so he's able to now come in and kind of help out as well. Miami will be the interesting one as to how they manage it, especially going to Chicago. Are they going to bring a full squad? Is it going to be more of, hey, let's bring in some of these 2 guys, let's let them play, let's kind of even the playing field, like maybe that way? I don't know. Vancouver's also the interesting one. Got the chance to actually watch the goal that put them ahead. I stayed up that late to watch it because I couldn't sleep. Insomnia, guys. I don't know what happened. It just did happen. I tried going to bed and I just couldn't. So I was watching it. And as soon as it happened, I was like, the announcers that it was Mo Adu, they were like, oh, well, Vancouver, get back into this one. And then as soon as he said it, they did it. It was insanity. But you got to think that they're just gassed out at this point, just because of the emotional toll of the game, because, the way that game played out, and then how are they going to respond as well? I don't know. I don't know. It'll be an interesting one. I think Nashville's is such a curious one. I'm really interested to see how Charlotte does without Zaha, because that's their guy. That's who is supposed to come out and be the guy, the star for them. And they don't have him. And
Well,
how are
you
they
know,
gonna
there's
manage
this
that?
guy who's there.
Yeah, I don't know. That one will be interesting. That one will be an interesting one to see, especially how that plays out with it. And then Nashville's an interesting one too, especially, Real Salt Lake. You got the star maker there as well. So I'm excited to actually get.
Oh, see, that's what happened. See, she mentions everybody else, and then Forsyth County took over.
Forsyth County. We will, and for folks who are listening and friends of the show and hearing this, we're not going to push this very hard, but since we have the early game on Saturday, that gives us the opportunity to go watch some other games, and we're going to make a trip over to the Brew House Saturday night. So the SDH crew, in some form or fashion, will be there for at least the 7:30 games.
Yeah.
Probably not a whole lot more than that because we got a 2:45 game that we're all working.
Yes.
So the early evening MLS games will have an impromptu hangout session at the Brew House. Hopefully on the patio if the weather's nice. And I know I'll be watching a lot of NYC in Philadelphia, but other games will be on, and we'll be hanging out. So if you're a listener and you're in the vicinity and you want to come by and say hello, come by and say hello.
David Ornstein, 6 minutes ago, shocking no one really. Messi and friends close to an agreement with said Messi over a contract extension, which would see the Argentina forward lead his side into their new home at Miami Freedom Park next year.
Yeah, that's been expected. That's been somewhat understood in everything, and opening the new stadium, it's a no-brainer. I think now that we have the conversation about the regular season format at least moving into the direction that it should move into, about a new format going forward. It's just not going to go forward as soon as it should go forward. Now she's back to a robot. I mean, it's just chaos. Forsyth County is out of its mind today.
Oh.
I think, my thought was always, okay, if you make the change in the 2026 calendar year and you do it after the World Cup, Messi plays the first half of the year, whatever that is, if it's a short season tournament, and then he retires at the World Cup. Messi's still insane in quality and in competitiveness. I think it's no question he plays at the World Cup. I mean, that's done at this point, even, with what he said. Phone overheated, according to Madison Cruz.
Okay.
Blame Forsyth County again.
Yes.
So there was a question after the last World Cup about Messi playing in 2026. I don't think it's officially answered, but it's answered.
Yeah.
He's going to play.
Yeah.
Now the question is, how much longer after that does he want to play? And I think he's enjoying his time in Miami. I think you saw it in the way that he was reacting against LAFC. He doesn't want to hang up the boots anytime soon. And I think he's also, and this is the other side of it, and it's something that he hasn't been able to share in his career up until this point. Some of it's just due to timing. His kids are a little bit older. I think they can really appreciate what their dad is doing. They can be part of it. They're playing in the Miami Academy. No, Thiago's not scoring 11 goals against Atlanta United in games. That didn't happen, even though a lot of people reported that it did because of a shady graphic. We can make some graphics that say things too, by the way. And
yes,
that doesn't mean they're true. You can just throw numbers out on Twitter and say things, and it doesn't mean they're actually true. But what? I know, it's crazy. It's wild. But his kids are part of it. You saw it with the celebration on one of the goals. And it's very cool. And I think that gives him motivation to continue. So he's going to open the new stadium. That's not a question. I didn't think it was to begin with. How much longer he goes after that? I don't know. If you told me that he was still playing in 2027 in MLS, I wouldn't rule against it right now. I wouldn't bet against that right now. I think it is very possible. And he's still playing at an incredibly high level. So, he's going to be leading a team into the World Cup in 2026. He'll be, 38 at the time, and they will be favored to win. And he will be a massive part of why they're favored to win. He's just a freak of nature, and I don't know if we're ever going to see anybody like him again.
Broadcast plans for 92.9 as we get ready for the Revs and Atlanta United, sir.
1:30 for pregame coverage with Abe Gordon and Madison Cruz. Kickoff, I think, is set for 2:45 exactly. Actually, if you give me a second, I can tell you. It's a weird one because Fox has it as well. So it's like slightly staggered from
so is
the
it like
2:40 kick.
A 2:55 kick or whatever? Because
no, hold on. Let's see. Yeah, it is a 2:55 kick. So it's a 2:45 broadcast time, a 2:55 kick, just to throw us off even more. So an extended pregame show with Abe Gordon and Madison Cruz. It'll start at 1:30. We will have Garth Lagerway in the booth with Mike and I think around 2-ish. And we might get to talk to him for an extra long period of time because we've got time to fill. So sometimes that happens organically. I think this one will be planned. And then 2:55 for the kick. Post-game show will be that guy and Abe Gordon. And you'll hear from Atlanta United manager Ronnie Dyla and players from the locker room. And we'll see what happens.
Yep. As always, my friend, great to have you and Maddie, when her phone doesn't overheat, wrap up the week with us. The hour of chaos is what we mean for it to be, where we cover everything in an hour, and it's great to see you guys. And we will see you tomorrow at MBS for a big matchup with Atlanta United and the Refs. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do.
Adios, y'all.
There he goes, and there goes Jason. And so Jason is out. Once again, reminder, 6 and 8 tonight. It is high school, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Denmark at South Forsyth, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. We'll have the matchups here on the network. And then we all turn around and head down to Mercedes-Benz tomorrow for what is going on with Atlanta United and the Revs. So we've gone through the juice boxes. We've gone through what it might look like for Messi and friends. So once again, just to recap, going into Chicago, because once again, Chicago's a dog going into this matchup at home. Ustari and net probably means that Calendar is going to start for Messi and friends. Back four: Weigand, Falcone, Noah Allen, Jordi Alba. Busquets did not play. Allende, Bright, Redondo, Segovia, Messi, Suarez. Cups of coffee: Kromoski came in and played 35 minutes. Avilas, Lujan, and Pico came in for literal cups of coffee, replacing Segovia, Allende, and Suarez. Calendar did not play. Ian Frey, David Martinez, Santi Morales, Gressel, Obando, Afonso, and Taylor did not play. So thinking maybe some of them folks might be a part of the lineup against Chicago. So that's how it's looking. So you got the broadcast plans there. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. We'll go through today and maybe tomorrow, because we all know about the chaos and everything that will be watched. All right. Manchester City is looking to add Destiny Udogie, Spurs left back, to a short list of signings. That comes from Fabrizio Romano. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs have met or had discussions with the reps of Spain defender Dean Hewson ahead of his decision about Bournemouth. Lens, English boss, Will Still among the contenders to become the new manager at Southampton following Ivan Juric's. I love how they say Ivan Juric's departure. 107 days in charge. It was a relegation clause in Juric's contract, and so you're getting relegated. Juric is out. West Ham considering a move for Southampton keeper Aaron Ramsdale. Real Betis holding out for $35 million as Chelsea step up their interest in Spanish winger Jesus Rodriguez, 4-letter paper. Newcastle readying an offer for Burnley keeper James Trafford, keen on signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin with the contract at Everton expiring at the end of the year. PSV Eindhoven interested in a move for Ipswich's Jack Clark this summer. Atalanta expecting starting bids above £51 million, €60 million for Ademola Lookman, Nigerian international set to leave the Italian club at the end of the year. Barcelona cooled their interest in Bayer Leverkusen defender Jonathan Tah out of contract at June 30. Genoa boss Patrick Vieira in the running to become Roma's new coach. Four-man shortlist, according to Sky Italia. And Barcelona director of football Deco has identified Real Sociedad's Alex Ramiro to replace Marc-Andre ter Stegen as the club's keeper. That's from Catalunya Radio via Football España. Now, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Let's see if we can get into the list and find out what's going on. So Friday, BN Español, simulcasting. Liga at 2:45, Turkish Super League at 1 o'clock, Samsunspor and Galatasaray. You can get all the BNs, CDO for the fans, Nuestra Tela, TIC, our buddy Nino Torres and Gold TV, Liga 1 Max Pro, all in one place at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps you out, helps them out, helps us out. You continue to be a true degenerate by adding Fanatis to your streaming stacks. 2 to NA doubleheader in Liga MX, Necaxa Pachuca at 8:30, Mazatlan and Guadalajara, and Chivas at 11. ESPN Plus, Bundesliga at 2:20, Wolfsburg and Leipzig. Bundesliga B, Hamburg and Eintracht Braunschweig at 12:30. La Liga at 3, Valencia Sevilla. La Liga B, Cordoba Levante at 2:20. Charlotte Independence forward Madison at 7 o'clock. MLSNextPro.com has Los Verdos, Austin FC2, and North Texas SC at 6:30. Paramount Plus, League 2, Notts County, Salford City at 2:45. Serie A, Udinese and Milan at 2:45. Ayr United and Falkirk at 2:45 in the championship. Women, prime matchup of the week on their Friday night football. Utah and Portland is at 10. DAZN USA, French Premier League 1, PSG and Reims at 3. Frauen Bundesliga at 12:30. SGS Essen and Werder Bremen is at 2:30. Tomorrow it is BN's got Ligue 1, ESPN's got the Bundesliga, Fox has MLS, NBC's got the Premier League, and you know it's going to be on USA and Peacock. BN en Español simulcasting. ESPN Deportes triple header in La Liga. Fox Deportes Serie A, MLS Liga MX. Gold TV triple header in Portugal. Uruguay and Primera after that. So they've got a quadruple header, 2 countries. Telemundo is simulcasting Arsenal and Brentford. 2 triple header in Liga MX. Universo triple header in the Premier League. Univision double header in Liga MX. 9 and 11-15. Season pass, all the matchups that are there that we talked about. ESPN Plus. Belgium, the Eredivisie, Women's FA Cup, Bundesliga, Bundesliga B, La Liga 2, USL Championship, USL League 1, Fox Soccer Plus, Serie B, Saudi Pro, Canadian Premier League, Golasso, English Championship, Serie A, USL Championship. NBCSports.com, Premier League, 7:30 and 10, Paramount Plus. English Championship, League 1, Wigan and Wrexham at 7:30, Wrexham getting closer to a triple promotion. Serie A, doubleheader. USL Championship, Scottish Premiership, Celtic and Kilmarnock. Peacock has all the other matchups that aren't on USA or NBC. YouTube MLS Generation Adidas Cup, 10 a.m., noon, 2:30, and 4:30, with all of that on MLS's YouTube channel. CBS Sports Network has Serie A Femenil. They've got the Ion with the NWSL doubleheader, DAZN USA, French Premier League, Frauen Bundesliga, Spanish Primera, ESPN Plus, FA Cup, Chelsea and Liverpool, Women's FA Cup, 7:05, Soccer Plus, Femenina, Golasso Network, NWSL at 5 o'clock, Houston and Angel City, Paramount Plus, doubleheader, 2 matchups at Paramount Plus in the NWSL Peacock, USL Super League, 4 matches available, and VEEX has Liga MX Femenil, 6 o'clock, Necaxa and Cruz Azul. Okay, that's it. It's another week in the barn. Thanks to all of our guests. Kaylor Hodges in a break glass situation coming in to break down everything going on in Birmingham with the parting of the ways of Tom Sohn. And Birmingham let you know what else is going on in USL Championship and League 1. Bart Keeler coming in to talk about what happened in Match 2 with Brazil and the U.S., U.S. Women's National Team, plus Gold Cup pairings. It's a group 4x4. You added Saudi Arabia to the mix. Thanks to Brad Feldman for coming in to talk about everything Revs. Thanks to Jason and Maddie for coming in to talk about everything Atlanta United and Major League Soccer coming into the weekend. Thanks to you for being a part of it, as you always are. Since it is the last day of the week as we get ready for anything and everything, time to send you home. Mucha platiel. Play it safe. Enjoy the whistle. We'll see you at the Benz. We'll see you tonight at Denmark and South Forsyth on campus, 6 and 8 on the network. Be good, everybody. Play it safe.
Equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress, the